The alarm bells rang through the USS Horizon like angry metal birds.
Captain.
Jake Morrison ran down the long hallway toward the bridge. His boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. The ship shook as something big passed by outside.
Out.
"We have Lieutenant?" Jake asked as he reached his chair. The big screen in front of them showed empty space filled with stars. But something was wrong. The stars were moving in a strange way. "Sir, we have a massive ship approaching from the port side," said Lieutenant Amy Carter. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the worry underneath. "It's bigger than anything. In our records, much bigger." Jake looked at the screen again. Now he could see it. Huge dark shape was blocking out the stars. The alien ship was like a giant metal mountain floating in space. It had sharp edges and strange towers sticking. Out from its sides, red lights blinked along its surface like angry eyes. "How big?" Jake asked. "Our computers say it's about 5 miles long, Captain," Amy replied. "And it's still coming closer." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone stared at the screen. Jake had been a captain for 15 years. He'd seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. They're sending a message on all frequencies." "It's in basic galactic standard," said Communications Officer Bill Harper. "They want to meet with our leader." Jake took a deep breath. This was what they had trained for, first contact with a new alien species. But his training had not prepared him for something this big and scary-looking. "Open a channel," Jake said. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel USS Horizon. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations." The answer came back quickly. The voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "I am Vorthok, War Commander of the Kethron Empire. You will prepare to receive me aboard your vessel. I will inspect your ship and your people to determine your worth." Jake felt his stomach drop. This did not sound like a friendly meeting. "With respect, Commander Vorthok, perhaps we could meet in neutral space first, get to know each other better." "You do not understand, weak creature," the voice growled. "I do not ask. I command. Prepare your docking bay. I will board your ship in 10 minutes. Any resistance will result in your destruction." The communication ended. Jake looked around the bridge. His crew stared back at him with wide eyes. "What?" "Lieutenant." Amy Carter's hands shook as she worked at her station. Bill Harper kept swallowing like his mouth was very dry. "Captain, what do we do?" Amy asked. Jake thought fast. They could try to run, but the alien ship was much bigger and probably faster. They could fight, but their weapons would be like throwing stones at a mountain. The only choice was to let this Vorthok creature come aboard and hope for the best. "Open the main docking bay," Jake said. "All security teams to level 3, but keep weapons hidden. We don't want to start a fight we can't win." 10 minutes later, the USS Horizon shook as something large attached to their docking bay. Jake walked down to meet their visitor with 6 of his best security officers. His hands felt sweaty inside his gloves. The docking bay door opened with a loud hiss. Thick gray smoke poured out. Jake squinted through the fog, trying to see what was coming. First came the sound of heavy footsteps. Then a shape appeared in the smoke. Jake's mouth fell open. The alien was huge. It stood at least 12 feet tall, with shoulders as wide as a door. Its skin was dark gray, like old metal covered in what looked like battle scars. It wore black armor made from some kind of material that seemed to eat light. Red lights glowed where its eyes should be. Vorthok looked around the docking bay like a king inspecting his kingdom. His gaze stopped on Jake and the security team. Jake tried to stand straight and look brave, but his knees felt weak. "So small," Vorthok said in his grinding voice. "So weak. Is this the best your species can offer?" "I am Captain Morrison," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Welcome aboard our ship." Vorthok walked closer. Each step made the metal floor shake. Jake had to tilt his head back to look up at the giant alien's face. "You are their leader? You look like a child to me." Behind Jake, one of the security officers made a small, scared sound. Vorthok's head turned toward the noise. The officer stepped backward and bumped into the wall. "Pathetic," Vorthok said. your warriors run from me before I even draw a weapon. How did your species ever leave its home planet? Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting mad would not help anyone. We are explorers, not warriors. We seek knowledge and friendship with other species. Vorthok made. It sounded like rocks falling down a hill. It took Jake a moment to realize the alien was laughing. Friendship? Knowledge? These are the tools of the weak. In the galaxy, only strength matters. Only power survives. The giant alien began walking through the ship. Jake and his team followed, trying to keep up with Vorthok's long steps. They passed through the main corridors where crew members pressed, themselves against the walls, staring in fear and wonder. In the mess hall, Vorthok stopped and looked around. About 20 crew members sat at tables eating their dinner. When they saw the massive alien, most of them froze with food halfway to their mouths. "This is where your people gather?" Vorthok asked. "Yes, for meals and social time," Jake replied. Vorthok walked between the tables. Crew members shrank back as he passed. Some got up and hurried toward the exits. Others sat very still, as if not moving would make them invisible, at one table in the corner. A young man in an engineer's uniform sat by himself. He had brown hair and a friendly face, with grease stains on his cheek.
I like
Everyone else. He did not look afraid. He looked curious. As Vorthok approached his table, the young man stood up. "Hello," he said with a smile. "I'm Danny Walsh. Would you like some coffee?" Pretty good today." The entire mess hall went silent. Everyone stared at Danny like he had lost his mind. Jake felt his heart stop. Vorthok slowly turned his glowing red eyes toward the young engineer. "You offer me your food?" Vorthok asked. "Sure," Danny said, still smiling. "Coffee's not really food, but it's warm and tastes good. You look like you've traveled a long way." Vorthok stared down at Danny for a long moment. The silence stretched like a tightrope ready to snap. Jake prepared to jump between them if the alien decided to hurt Danny. Then something strange happened. Vorthok's head tilted slightly to one side, like a dog hearing an interesting sound. "You do not fear me?" Vorthok said. It was not a question. "Should I?" Danny asked. "You haven't done anything scary yet? Just walking around and talking? Want that coffee or not?" Jake held his breath. The security officers gripped their hidden weapons. Everyone waited for Vorthok to explode in anger. Instead, the giant alien made that rock-falling sound again. "Interesting," he said. "Very interesting." Turned away from Danny and continued his inspection of the ship. But Jake noticed something different in the alien's voice. The grinding anger had softened just a little. After 2 hours, Vorthok returned to the docking bay. "Your species is weak," he announced to Jake. "You have no honor in battle, no strength to take what you want. You're not worthy to be our enemies. And perhaps we could be friends," Jake suggested hopefully. "Friends?" Vorthok's laugh was like breaking glass. "The Kethron Empire does not make friends with insects, but you are too pathetic to be worth destroying. We will leave you in peace for now." The giant alien paused at the door to his ship. He looked back over his shoulder toward the inside of the USS Horizon. "Tell me," he said, "the small one who offered me drink, what is his role on your vessel?" "Danny Walsh. He's a maintenance engineer. He fixes things when they break." Vorthok nodded slowly. A builder, not a destroyer. Curious. Then he was gone, disappearing into the gray smoke of his ship. Minutes later, the massive alien vessel pulled away from the USS Horizon and vanished into the stars. Jake stood in the docking bay watching it go. His hands still shook from the encounter behind him. Danny Walsh walked up, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Captain, you look like you could use this." Jake took the coffee gratefully. "Danny, do you realize what just happened? That alien could have killed us all." Danny shrugged. "Maybe. But he didn't." "Sometimes being friendly works better than being scared." Jake looked at the young engineer with new eyes. Perhaps there was more to Danny Walsh than anyone had realized, and perhaps this would not be their last meeting with the giant warrior named Vorthok. 3 months had passed since the meeting with the giant alien warrior. Danny Walsh sat in his small room at Research Station Alpha on the planet New Kansas. He was fixing a broken computer tablet when the alarm started ringing. Danny sighed and put down his tools. Alarms always meant more work for him. Someone would need something fixed or moved or rebuilt. That was his job as the station's maintenance engineer. He walked through the narrow hallways to the command center. The research station was much smaller than the USS Horizon. Only 50 people lived here, studying the old alien ruins scattered across the planet's surface. "What's the problem, Commander?" Danny asked as he entered the command room. Commander Steve Miller pointed at the big screen on the wall. "We have a crash site about 10 miles north of here. Something big hit the ground hard. The impact shook our whole station." Danny looked at the screen. It showed a smoking crater in the red dirt of New Kansas. Something metallic glinted at the bottom of the hole. "Looks like a ship. Should we go check it out?" "I'm sending a team," Steve said. "But I want you to stay here. If it's hostile aliens, we might need to evacuate quickly. I need you to keep our systems running." Danny nodded, but he felt disappointed. He wanted to see what had crashed. Living on a research station was usually boring. The most exciting thing that happened most days was when the coffee machine broke down. 2 hours later, the exploration team came back. He looked worried and confused. Dr. Lisa Park, the head scientist, went straight to Commander Miller. "Sir, you need to see this," she said. "The crashed ship is definitely alien. The design matches the vessel that visited the USS Horizon 3 months ago." Danny's heart jumped. Could it be Vorthak's ship? The giant alien warrior who had been surprisingly interested in Danny's offer of coffee. "Is anyone alive in there?" Steve asked. "We think so. We heard sounds from inside, but the ship is badly damaged. We couldn't get in. The metal is too thick and too hot from the crash." "What about life signs?" "Our scanners show one large life form. It's weak but still alive." Danny stepped forward. "Commander, let me go look at it. I know alien technology better than anyone else here. I might be able to help." Steve shook his head. "Too dangerous. We don't know if it's friendly or hostile. If it's Vorthak, he's not our enemy," Danny said. "And if it's not him, maybe we can still help. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? Help people in trouble?" Steve thought for a moment. "Fine. But you take a full security team with you. And if anything goes wrong, you get out of there fast." The trip to the crash site took 30 minutes in the station's ground vehicle. Danny sat in the back with 4 security officers. None of them looked happy about the mission. When they reached the crater, Danny climbed out and looked down at the wreckage. The alien ship was about the size of a small house. It was black with red markings, just like the larger vessel from 3 months ago. One side was completely crushed from the impact. "Stay back," said Security Chief Ron Davis. "Let us check it out first." But Danny was already climbing down into the crater. The metal was still warm, but not too hot to touch. He found a crack in the ship's hull and peered inside. It was dark and filled with smoke. Danny heard a low groaning sound from deeper in the ship. Someone was definitely alive in there. "Hello?" Danny called out. "Is anyone hurt? I'm here to help." The groaning stopped. Then a familiar voice spoke, weak but unmistakable. "Human? Is that the voice of the small one who offered drink?" Danny's heart raced. It was Vorthak. "Yes, it's me. Danny Walsh. Are you?" "Okay, I am ... injured. My ship is destroyed. I cannot move." Danny looked back at the security team. They were standing at the edge of the crater, pointing their weapons at the ship. "It's okay," Danny shouted to them. "It's the alien from the USS Horizon. He's hurt." "Danny, get away from there," Ron called back. "We need to report this to command first." But Danny was already squeezing through the crack in the hull. Inside the ship, the air was thick and hard to breathe. He followed the sound of Vorthak's voice through twisted metal corridors. He found the giant alien in what looked like a command room. Vorthak was trapped under a heavy piece of metal that had fallen from the ceiling. Green blood leaked from cuts on his arms and face. His armor was cracked and broken. "You should not be here," small human, Vorthok said. His voice was much weaker than before. This place is dangerous. That's exactly why I should be here, Danny said. He looked at the metal beam pinning Vorthok down. It was heavy, but maybe he could move it with the right tools. I will die here, Vorthok said. It is better this way. A warrior should not accept help from those he considers weak. Maybe, Danny said, pulling tools from his belt. Maybe you're wrong about us being weak. Let me show you something. Danny worked for an hour to free Vorthok. He used metal cutters to weaken the beam, then a portable jack to lift it. The giant alien watched him work with growing amazement. How do you know to do this? Vorthok asked, as Danny lifted the beam away. Engineering school, Danny replied. Plus lots of practice fixing things that break. When Vorthok was free, Danny helped him climb out of the wrecked ship. The security team was very nervous when they saw the 12-foot alien warrior emerge from the wreckage. Even injured, Vorthok looked dangerous. Easy, Danny told them. He's hurt. Need to get him medical help. Danny, that thing could kill us all, Ron said. His name is Vorthok, Danny replied. And right now, he can barely stand up. Back at the research station, Danny convinced Commander Miller to let Vorthok stay in one of the empty storage rooms. Dr. Park treated his injuries, though she was nervous the whole time. Vorthok's blood was green and his internal organs were different from humans. The basics were the same. Over the next few days, Danny visited Vorthok often. At first, the alien warrior was angry and confused. Why do you help me? Vorthok asked. On the second day, I told your people that you were weak. I called you insects. Danny brought a chair into the storage room and sat down. Because you're hurt and far from home? That's what people do. You help each other. Kethron do not help the weak, Vorthok said. We conquer them or ignore them. That sounds lonely, Danny said. Vorthok was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, What is lonely? Danny was surprised. You don't know what lonely means? It's when you feel sad because you have no friends, no one to talk to or share things with. Kethron warriors do not need friends, Vorthok said, but his voice was uncertain. Everyone needs friends, Danny replied. Even big, tough alien warriors. As the days passed, Danny learned more about Vorthok and his people. The Kethron Empire was built on conquest and war. They traveled from planet to planet, taking what they wanted and enslaving weaker species. Warriors who showed mercy or questioned orders were considered traitors. Is that why you crashed here? Danny asked one evening. Were you running from your own people? Vorthok nodded slowly. I began to question our ways after meeting your species. Your Captain Morrison showed courage even when afraid. But you showed something else. Something I had never seen before. What was that? Kindness without expecting anything in return. When you offered me drink, you wanted nothing from me. Confused me. Made me think about things differently. And your people didn't like that? My second in command, Zephrok, reported my weakness to the High Command. They ordered my execution. I escaped, but my ship was damaged in the fight. Danny felt sorry for the giant alien. Sorry, that must have been hard. I do not understand why you care about my troubles, Vorthok said. I am your enemy, are you? Danny asked. You haven't hurt anyone here? You've been polite to Dr. Park when she treats your wounds. You even said thank you when I brought you food yesterday. Vorthok looked surprised. I did say those words, didn't I? Zephrok would call that weakness. Zephrok sounds like a jerk, Danny said. Being nice to people isn't weakness. It's what makes life worth living. By the end of the week, Vorthok was well enough to walk around the station. The other researchers were still nervous around him, but they were getting used to seeing the giant alien in the hallways. Danny noticed that Vorthok was always careful not to scare anyone. He moved slowly and spoke quietly when humans were nearby. You're learning, Danny told him one evening as they sat in the station's small recreation room. Learning what? How to be a friend? Vorthok was quiet for a moment. Is this what friendship is? Caring about others without gain? It's pretty much Danny. Said friends help each other. They share good times and bad times. They make each other laugh. I do not understand laugh, Vorthok said. Danny grinned. Stick around, I'll teach you. That night, Danny lay in his bed thinking about his strange new friendship. Vorthok was nothing like what he had expected from their first meeting. All that armor and scary appearance was someone who was curious about the world and eager to learn new things. Danny had no idea that their peaceful time together was about to end. Far above New Kansas, ships were moving through space toward their small research station. Zephrok had found Vorthok's trail. He was bringing an entire war fleet to finish what he had started. The next morning would bring new challenges that would test both Danny's courage and Vorthok's loyalty. But for now, in the quiet of the research station, a human and an alien warrior were learning what it meant to be friends. Danny woke up to the sound of alarms screaming through the research station. Red lights flashed in his small room. He jumped out of bed and ran to the command center in his pajamas. Commander Steve Miller stood at the main computer screen, his face pale with worry. Dr. Lisa Park and the other scientists crowded around him, all talking at once. "What's happening?" Danny asked, pushing through the crowd. Coming down from orbit, Danny looked at the display. 7 large alien vessels were descending toward New Kansas, exactly like the ship that had visited the USS Horizon months ago, but smaller. Warships. "How long until they get here?" Danny asked. 20 minutes, Steve replied. "Maybe less." Danny's stomach dropped. He knew who was coming. Where's Vorthok? In his room. Why? Danny ran through the hallways toward the storage room where Vorthok had been staying. He found the giant alien standing at the small window looking up at the sky. Even through the thick walls, they could hear the rumble of approaching ships. "Zephrok has come to finish what he started. Underground tunnels." Vorthok shook his massive head. "It will not matter. Zephrok will destroy this entire station to get to me. Your people will die because of my presence here. Then we fight back. You have no weapons that can hurt a Kethran war fleet. Your people are scientists, not warriors." Danny felt helpless, but he refused. To give up, there has to be something we can do. The building shook as the alien ships landed outside the station. Through the window, Danny could see dark shapes moving in the red dust. Kethran warriors in black armor, carrying weapons that glowed with blue energy. Commander Miller's voice came over the station's speakers. "All personnel report to the main conference room immediately. We have visitors." Danny and Vorthok walked to the conference room together. The other humans stared at Vorthok with fear and anger. Some of them blamed him for bringing this danger to their peaceful research station. "This is your fault," said Dr. Park. "You brought these monsters here." "Lisa, stop," Danny said. "He's a refugee, just like anyone else running from bad people." Before anyone could argue more, the main door exploded inward. Metal pieces flew across the room, smoke poured in, and through it came 3 Kethran warriors. The lead warrior was almost as tall as Vorthok, but thinner. With symbols that looked like skulls, his eyes glowed bright red in his dark face. "I am Zephrok, second commander of the Kethran Empire," he announced, in a voice like breaking glass. "I have come for the traitor Vorthok." Vorthok stepped forward, putting himself between Zephrok and the humans. Zephrok laughed, a sound like metal being torn apart. "Fight? There will be no fight, traitor. You will come with me to face execution. But first, you will watch as I claim tribute from these weak creatures." "What kind of tribute?" Commander Miller asked, trying to sound braver than he looked. "Of your people will become slaves in our empire," Zephrok said. "The other half will serve as examples of what happens to those who help traitors." The humans in the room gasped. Some started crying. Others looked angry but helpless. "That's not happening," Danny said, stepping up beside Vorthok. Zephrok turned his glowing eyes toward Danny. "Ah, the small one who corrupted our warrior with his softness, you will be the first to die." "Wait," Vorthok said quickly. "I will come with you willingly. I will not resist. But you must let these humans go unharmed." "You are in no position to make demands," traitor Zephrok replied. "But I am curious. Why do you care about the fate of these insects?" Vorthok was quiet for a moment, and he said, "Because they showed me something I had never seen before. They showed me kindness without wanting anything back. They taught me that strength can come from helping others, not just hurting them." "Weakness," Zephrok spat. Your soft thinking is like a disease that could spread to other warriors. While Zephrok was talking, Danny noticed something. The same design that Danny had learned to repair over the past few weeks. An idea began forming in Danny's mind. It was crazy and dangerous, but it might be their only chance. I want to make a deal, Danny said loudly. Everyone turned to look at him. This should be entertaining. Give me 1 hour, Danny said. 1 hour to show you something amazing. If I can impress you, you let everyone go free. If I can't, we'll all surrender without a fight, Danny. No, Vorthok whispered. But Zephrok looked interested. What could you possibly show me that would matter? Human engineering, Danny said. You think we're weak because we're not good fighters? We're good at building things, fixing things. If you fail to impress me, I will make your deaths extra painful. Danny nodded and ran from the room. He needed to get to his workshop fast. Behind him, he heard Vorthok arguing with Zephrok, trying to buy more time. In his workshop, Danny gathered every tool he could carry. He also grabbed some special parts he had been saving for emergency repairs. His plan was simple but risky. He was going to sabotage the Kethron ships, but he needed to make it look like he was helping them. 20 minutes later, Danny returned to the conference room, carrying a large metal box. I built something for you, he told Zephrok. A power enhancer for your ships. It will make your weapons twice as strong. Zephrok looked suspicious. Show me. Danny opened the box. Inside was a complex device made from station parts and pieces of Kethron technology he had salvaged from Vortex. Crashed ship. It looked impressive and alien, with lights that blinked in interesting patterns. This connects to your ship's main power system, Danny explained. It boosts the energy output to all systems. Weapons, shields, engines, everything. How do I? No, this is not a trick, Zephrok asked. Test it on one ship first, Danny said. If it works, you can install it on your whole fleet. Zephrok considered this. The device did look advanced, and humans were known for their engineering skills. Very well, you will install this on my command ship. It works as you claim. I will consider sparing some of your people. Danny's heart pounded as he followed Zephrok outside to the alien ships. Vorthok came too, still trying to convince Zephrok to let the humans go. The Kethron command ship was beautiful and terrifying. It was all smooth black curves with red lights running along its sides. Danny had never seen anything so advanced. Inside the ship, Danny connected his device to the main power system. The energy flow will increase by 200%, Danny said as he made the final connections. Your weapons will be unstoppable. Not right away, but after a few minutes of use, it would shut down their ships completely, leaving them stranded. To activate it, Zephrok commanded. Danny flipped the switch. The ship's lights got brighter. The engines hummed with more power. Everything. Perhaps humans are not completely useless after all. They returned to the research station where Zephrok gathered all the humans in the main courtyard. His warriors surrounded them. With weapons ready, I have decided, Zephrok announced. Yes. Your engineer has shown me useful skills. Therefore, I will only take half of you as slaves instead of executing you all. The humans looked terrified. Commander Miller stepped forward. Please, we're just scientists. We have families back on Earth. Silence, Zephrok said, pointed at random people in the crowd. You, and you. But before anyone could move, alarms started ringing from the Kethron ships. Smoke began pouring from the ship's engines. What is happening? Zephrok demanded, grabbing Danny by the arm. I don't know, Danny lied. Maybe the power increase was too much for your systems. One by one, the Kethron ships began shutting down. Their lights went out. Their engines stopped. You sabotaged my ships. Prove it, Danny said, trying to sound innocent. Zephrok raised his weapon to kill Danny. But Vorthok stepped between them. No, the giant warrior said. Your ships couldn't handle it. You defend this trickery? Zephrok snarled. I defend my friend, Vorthok replied. For the first time since the aliens had arrived, Danny felt hope. Vorthok was standing up to his own people to protect the humans. Far from finished, even with his ships disabled, he still had 7 squads of armed warriors, and now he was angrier than ever. "No matter," Zephrok said with an evil smile. Zephrok pointed his weapon at Danny's chest. The blue energy at the tip glowed brighter and made a humming sound that filled the air with danger. "Your clever trick has only made things worse for your people, human," Zephrok said. "Now I will kill you slowly." But before he could fire, Vorthok grabbed Zephrok's arm and pushed the weapon away. The energy blast shot into the sky instead of into Danny. "Enough, Zephrok," Vorthok said. "You have no honor. A true warrior does not murder helpless prisoners." Zephrok turned on his former friend with rage in his glowing red eyes. "You dare touch me, traitor? You choose these weak creatures over your own kind?" "I choose what is right over what is easy," Vorthok replied. The two giant aliens faced each other in the courtyard of the research station.
All around them,
Kethron warriors raised their weapons while the human scientists huddled together in fear. Danny knew he had to act fast. While the aliens were focused on each other, he whispered to Commander Miller, "Get everyone inside the station. Lock all the doors." "I have an idea. What about you?" Steve whispered back. "Just go. Trust me." Steve nodded and began quietly moving the other humans toward the station entrance. Dr. Park helped him guide the frightened scientists away from the confrontation. Meanwhile, Zephrok and Vorthok continued their argument. "You have become weak," Zephrok snarled. "These humans have poisoned your mind with their soft ideas about friendship and kindness." "They have opened my eyes," Vorthok said. "I see now that true strength comes from protecting others, not conquering them." "Pretty words from a traitor," Zephrok replied, "but words will not save you." Zephrok signaled to his warriors. They began moving into position to surround Vorthok. Donnie realized his friend was about to be outnumbered 7-1. That's when Donnie did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He stepped between the alien warriors and shouted as loud as he could, "Stop. I challenge Zephrok to single combat." The entire courtyard went silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Every eye turned to look at the small human engineer, who had just challenged a 12-foot-tall alien warrior to a fight. Zephrok stared at Danny for a moment, then burst out laughing. "You challenge me. You are not even half my size." "Size doesn't matter," Danny said, trying to keep his voice steady. "What matters is who's fighting for the right reasons." "This is madness," Vorthok said. "Danny, you cannot fight him. He will kill you in seconds." "Maybe," Danny replied, "but someone has to stand up to bullies. That's what friends do for each other." Vorthok looked at Danny with something new in his eyes. It was respect mixed with worry, and something that might have been pride. Zephrok stopped laughing. "Very well, little human. I accept your challenge. When I crush you, your friend Vorthok will watch and learn what happens to those who oppose the Kethron Empire." The alien warriors formed a circle around Danny and Zephrok. Danny had no weapon except a small repair tool on his belt. Zephrok had a sword as long as Danny was tall. "This will be over quickly," Zephrok said, raising his massive blade. But Danny had not survived years of fixing dangerous machinery by being slow or stupid. As Zephrok swung the sword down, Danny rolled to the side. The blade hit the ground where he had been standing and stuck in the hard dirt, while Zephrok pulled his weapon free. Danny spotted something useful. One of the disabled Kethron ships was leaking fuel from a damaged tank. The fuel was spreading across the ground in a thin, shiny puddle. Danny ran toward the ship with Zephrok chasing behind him. The giant alien was fast, but Danny was faster and knew exactly where he was going. "You cannot run forever, coward," Zephrok shouted. "I'm not running," Danny called back. "I'm leading." Danny reached the fuel puddle and kept going, splashing through the slippery liquid. Zephrok followed, his heavy feet making bigger splashes. When they reached the other side of the puddle, Danny suddenly stopped and turned around. He pulled out his repair tool, which had a small electric spark generator used for welding metal.
"What are you doing?"
Zephrok demanded, raising his sword again. "Something I learned in engineering school," Danny said. "Fuel plus spark equals boom." He pointed the tool at the fuel puddle and pressed the button. A small electric spark shot out and hit the fuel. The explosion was not huge, but it was enough. Flames raced across the puddle and engulfed Zephrok's legs. The alien warrior roared and stumbled, his armor smoking from the heat. Danny did not wait to see what happened next. He ran back toward Vorthok and the other warriors. Behind him, Zephrok rolled on the ground, trying to put out the flames on his armor. "Impressive," said one of the Kethran warriors. "The small one fights with his mind instead of his muscles." "He fights with honor," Vorthok said proudly, but their celebration was cut short by an angry roar. Zephrok stood up, his armor blackened, but his eyes burning brighter than ever. "Enough games," he snarled. "Kill them all." The 7 Kethran warriors raised their weapons, but before they could fire, new sounds filled the air. Ship engines. Human ship engines. Danny looked up and saw the most beautiful sight of his life. 5 human warships were descending from orbit, their white hulls gleaming in the afternoon sun. The lead ship was twice the size of the others. "This is Admiral Lisa Brooks of the Human Space Navy," a voice announced from speakers in the sky. "All hostile forces on the surface will stand down immediately." Zephrok looked at his disabled ships, then at the approaching human fleet. For the first time since arriving, he looked worried. "How did they find us so quickly?" one of his warriors asked. Danny smiled. "I sent a distress signal before the fight started. Hidden in the power systems of your ships. When my sabotage device activated, it also transmitted our location to every human ship in this sector." "Not all of it," Danny admitted. "I was mostly making it up as I went along, but I figured if we were going to fight, we should have backup." The human ships landed in a semicircle around the research station. Marines in combat armor poured out, carrying weapons and equipment. They quickly surrounded the Kethran warriors. Admiral Brooks herself walked up to the group. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "I'm looking for Lieutenant Danny Walsh," she said. "That's me," Danny replied, stepping forward. "Lieutenant, you sent a very interesting message along with your distress signal. Something about first contact protocols and diplomatic opportunities. Care to explain?" Danny looked at Vorthok, then at the other Kethran warriors. Some of them were watching the humans with curiosity instead of hatred. The explosion and fight had made them think. "Admiral, I'd like you to meet my friend Vorthok," Danny said. "He's not like the others. Believes there might be a better way for our species to get along." Admiral Brooks studied the giant alien warrior. "Is this true?" Vorthok nodded slowly. "Your people have shown me that strength and kindness can exist together. Perhaps it is time for the Kethran to learn new ways." Trader Zephrok spat from where he knelt, surrounded by human marines, but several of the other Kethran warriors were nodding in agreement with Vorthok. Danny noticed that they were looking at him with something like respect. One of them, a warrior with fewer scars than the others, stepped forward. "I am War Captain Thane," he said. "I have watched this human fight with honor and cleverness. Perhaps we have underestimated this species. This one defeated you with nothing but his mind and a small tool. He protected his friends, even knowing he might die. He showed mercy to our wounded comrade. These do not seem like the actions of a weak creature." Admiral Brooks listened to this exchange with growing interest. "It sounds like we have a lot to discuss. I suggest we move this conversation somewhere more comfortable." As the groups walked toward the research station, Danny found himself between Admiral Brooks and Vorthok. The human admiral asked quietly, "Lieutenant, do you really think we can trust these aliens?" Danny looked at his giant friend, who was carefully walking so as not to scare the human marines around him. "Some of them, yes. Vorthok saved my life more than once today. And I think some of the others are starting to see things differently, too. And the one called Zephrok, he's trouble. But maybe if enough of his own people turn against him, he'll have to change too." Admiral Brooks nodded thoughtfully. "Well, Lieutenant Walsh, it looks like you've started something big here. I hope you're ready for what comes next." Danny looked around at the humans and aliens walking together toward the station. Some were friends, some were enemies, and some were somewhere in between. But for the first time since this all started, he felt like maybe, just maybe, they might find a way to make it work. The hardest part was still ahead. But Danny had learned something important over the past few weeks. Sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of friendship. And sometimes being brave enough to offer someone a cup of coffee can change the whole galaxy. 6 months later, Danny Walsh stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people and aliens. He wore a new uniform with shiny gold bars on his shoulders. The rank of lieutenant commander felt strange, but Admiral Brooks had insisted he needed the authority for his new job. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored Kethrin guests," Danny said into the microphone. "Welcome to the signing of the first Human-Kethrin Alliance Treaty." The crowd in the Great Hall clapped and cheered. Half of them were humans from Earth and the colonies. The other half were Kethrin warriors who had chosen to follow Vorthok and War Captain Thane instead of the old Empire. Danny looked out at the audience and saw familiar faces. Commander Steve Miller sat in the front row with the other researchers from New Kansas. Dr. Lisa Park was there too, smiling proudly. Admiral Brooks sat with other high-ranking human officers. On the alien side, Vorthok sat like a mountain in a specially built chair. Next to him was Thane, who had become the leader of the reformed Kethrin faction. Other alien warriors filled the seats behind them, their red eyes glowing with curiosity instead of anger. 6 months ago, I was just a maintenance engineer who fixed broken coffee machines, Danny continued. I never imagined I would be standing here today, helping to make peace between two species. The audience laughed softly. Danny had gotten better at public speaking, but he still felt nervous in front of so many important people. But I learned something important during these past months. Peace doesn't start with governments or armies. It starts with individuals, choosing to see the good in each other. It starts with friendship. Danny gestured toward Vorthok. My friend Vorthok taught me that strength and honor can exist alongside kindness and mercy. He showed me that even the biggest differences between people can be overcome if both sides are willing to try. Vorthok stood up slowly. When he was at his full height, his head nearly touched the ceiling of the Great Hall. The human Danny Walsh taught me something as well, he said in his deep, rumbling voice. He taught me that true courage is not about winning fights, it is about doing what is right, even when you are afraid. The crowd was completely silent, hanging on every word from the giant alien warrior. The old Kethrin Empire believed that the strong should rule over the weak. Vorthok continued. But Danny showed me a different kind of strength, the strength to help those in need, the strength to forgive your enemies, the strength to build instead of destroy. Vorthok sat back down, and the hall erupted in applause. Danny saw tears in the eyes of some of the human audience members. Even some of the Kethrin warriors were making sounds that might have been their version of crying. The treaty signing ceremony was beautiful. President Maria Santos of the United Earth Government signed first, using a pen made from metal taken from both human and Kethrin ships. Then Thane signed with a traditional Kethrin honor blade, carefully pressing the point into the special paper. After the signing, there was a big party. Danny walked around the room, amazed at what he saw. Human children were playing games with young Kethrin warriors. Human scientists were excitedly discussing technology with alien engineers. Even the food tables had dishes from both worlds. It's working, said a voice behind Danny. He turned to see Admiral Brooks approaching with 2 glasses of punch. It's hard to believe, Danny replied, taking one of the glasses. 6 months ago, everyone was shooting at each other. Now look at them. Not everyone, Admiral Brooks reminded him. Zephrok and his followers are still causing trouble in the outer systems. Danny nodded. The defeat at New Kansas had split the Kethrin Empire in half. About 40% of their warriors had joined Thane's reform movement, but Zephrok had escaped and taken the remaining 60% deeper into space. They were still attacking human colonies and fighting against Thane's forces. We'll figure out how to deal with Zephrok eventually, Danny said. But for now, this is enough. We're proving that humans and Kethron can work together. Speaking of working together, Admiral Brooks said with a smile, I have some news for you. The Senate has approved funding for the new Xenocultural Exchange Program. Congratulations, Director Walsh. Danny almost choked on his punch. Director, but I'm just an engineer. You're the human who convinced a warrior species to consider peace instead of war, Admiral Brooks replied. I can't think of anyone better. Qualified to run a program about understanding alien cultures. Across the room, Danny saw Vorthok talking with a group of human children. The giant alien was very carefully showing them how Kethrin armor worked. making sure not to scare them with the sharp edges. One little girl, maybe 6 years old, was sitting on Vorthak's massive shoulder, giggling as he lifted her toward the ceiling. "He's good with kids," Admiral Brooks observed. "He likes learning about human emotions," Danny said. "Last week I taught him how to laugh. It sounds like rocks falling down a mountain, but he's getting the hang of it." They watched as Vorthak gently set the little girl back down. She hugged his leg, which was about as high as she could reach, and ran back to her parents. "Danny," Admiral Brooks said seriously, "do you think this will really work long term? Can our species really become allies?" Danny thought about everything that had happened. The fear and misunderstanding at first contact, violence and threats from Zephrok. The slow building of trust between himself and Vorthak. The gradual change in how other Kethrans saw humans. "I think it depends on us," he said finally. "If we keep working at it, if we keep choosing friendship over fear, then yes, it will work." Later that evening, after most of the crowd had gone home, Danny and Vorthak sat together on the balcony of the government building, city lights spread out below them like stars. "Are you happy with how things turned out?" Danny asked his friend. Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. "I never knew what happy meant before I met you," he said. "Now I think I understand. Yes, I am happy, but also sad." "Sad why?" "Because of Zephrok and the others who still follow the old ways. They're my people, but they refuse to see what I have learned. Many will die before this conflict ends." Danny nodded. "Maybe some of them will change their minds. Maybe when they see how well our alliance works, they'll want to join us." "Perhaps," Vorthak said. "Change is hard for Kethrin. We are taught from birth that strength comes from domination. It is difficult to accept that cooperation might be stronger." "You accepted it," Danny pointed out, "because you were patient with me, because you showed me kindness even when I did not deserve it, because you offered me friendship when I had given you no reason to trust me." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. Danny thought about how much his life had changed. 6 months ago, his biggest worry was whether the coffee machine in the research station would break down again. Now he was responsible for helping 2 species learn to live together. Danny, Vorthak said, "What do you think will happen next?" "Don't know," Danny admitted. "But I know we'll face it together. Humans, Kethrin, and maybe other species too. The galaxy is a big place. There are probably lots of people out there who need friends." Vorthak made his rock dash, falling dash, down dash, a dash mountain laugh. "You would try to befriend the entire galaxy if you could." "Maybe," Danny said with a grin. "Someone has to start somewhere. Might as well be us." As they sat there under the stars, neither of them knew that their story was already spreading across the galaxy. Other species had heard about the humans who made peace through friendship, and the Kethron who chose cooperation over conquest. Some of those species were curious. They wanted to meet these strange humans who seemed to have a gift for bringing out the best in others. They began sending messages toward human space, asking for contact. Other species were worried. If humans could change the mighty Kethron Empire, what else might they be capable of? Some began making plans to test this new alliance, but that would be a story for another day. For now, Danny Walsh, former maintenance engineer and current director of Xena Cultural Exchange, sat with his best friend under the stars. They talked about small things and big dreams, about the past and the future, about the amazing fact that a simple offer of coffee had changed the course of galactic history. In the distance, human Kethrin children played together in the park, their laughter carrying on the evening breeze. It was the sound of hope. The sound of a better future being born from the courage to offer friendship to a stranger. And in his heart, Danny knew that this was just the beginning.